The Killing Field. There was a movie made a couple decades ago called The Killing Field. I suggest everyone to go watch that movie. I think it'll change your life, especially with all these climate change bunnies and all these crazy young people today who feel they are entitled to the world. You need to go watch that movie. Pol Pot and the Khmer Rouge in a Maoist revolution swept Cambodia from 1975 to 1979. They killed almost 3 million people. Most of them died from starvation, overwork, disease, and mass execution. Up to 30% of their population. Imagine that, 30% of the population. They targeted intellectual, professional, and they want to cleanse the ethnic minorities. The genocide is recognized as one of the worst atrocities of the 20th century. All this happened while the world watched. Yes, watched, and did nothing. They wanted to purge the country of any remnants of civilization till there was nothing left but peasants, so they can make them into the image of what they want them to be. Kind of like what the Democrats are doing today. If you were a teacher back then, you were a prime suspect. If you wear glasses, they kill you on the spot. Anybody. They don't care what reason you have. If you wear glasses, they shoot you on the spot because they know you're a threat to them. They think you're intelligent. They think you're a teacher or administrator, so they shoot you on the spot. I traveled to Phnom Penh back in the early 90s, and I saw the remnant of the atrocity they left behind. They killed people by the millions, but they were running short on bullets. So when they come into the city, they would pick children up by the legs and beat them against walls, trees, concrete, whatever they can find, because they want, like the Mongols, back in the Middle Ages, they want the people to fear them. And so they take these children and they pick them up and they just splatter them all over the wall. And children, babies, newborn, two rebels would hold one on each leg and they would split them apart so they didn't have used bullets right in front of their families. When I was over there, I go see some of these homes, and even after a decade, the blood was still on the floor, on the walls. It still haunt me to this day. While the world watched. I got a friend named Sam. He's from Cambodia. He was probably 9, 10 years old then. And he was trying to escape with a group of people. They chased him. And finally, right about dusk, they ran into this field and there was a pond. So he jumped into the pond and pretended he was dead in the pond. He was the only survivor. Everybody else, they rounded him up and shot him. The only reason Sam survived was because the pond was filled with dead bodies from before. Some of them were bloated. The stench was so unbearable. That's why they didn't go in there. And that's how my friend survived. It only stopped after 5 years when the Vietnamese invaded Cambodia and ousted the Khmer Rouge. But in 1990, the United Nations began the largest operation in its history, trying to facilitate free election and democracy in Cambodia. Up to 25,000 personnel, UN personnel, descended into Cambodia. Hun Sen came to power. He used to be one of the Khmer Rouge. The UN spent billions, and all they got was a dictator. So what did they do? Well, I'd like to tell you what they did. This is what I saw. The average monthly wage was less than $100 a month in Cambodia at the time. Soldiers and administrators make more in a month than the average Cambodian make in 10 years or even a lifetime. Think about it. When you make $10, $20, $30,000 a month being a UN administrator and a few $1,000s being a soldier, when the average person make less than $100, you see the discrepancy. So you know what the UN created? They created the largest red light district in the world. Yes. A private brothel for the UN to enjoy. Go look this up. I don't make them up. Go look it up. On one of my trips there, I saw this young girl sit in front of the cafe. And when I ride by on my motorcycle, she would wave at me. So I was curious. I said, why does she keep waving me every time I pass by? So one day I decided to stop. And she told me, you know, we have a lot of service in the back. Whatever you like, we have it. And she told me what kind of service they have. But this was a neighborhood. This wasn't a red light district. So I stopped for coffee, just coffee. And after a few days, she confided in me. She said she worked there. She was 15 years old. I guess you have to see the backdrop. The Pol Pot and the Khmer Rouge has decimated their country. They killed most of the people that is what make their country. And so there was no women left, no young women. And so to create this red light district, the nearest place was Vietnam. And right across the border is a province in Vietnam called An Giang, Ho Giang. And some of the most beautiful women in Vietnam happen to live in those provinces. And I tell you about the evil of the human heart. Women would come to Vietnam, our own people would come to the province, and they selectively choose some of the best looking young women there. And they said, why you work out in the field? Why don't you come to the Cambodia? The United Nations is hiring in employees. You can work at the offices, you can work administration and make a lot of money. $700, $800, $900. You have to understand that's like America making $10,000 a month, $20,000 a month. at the time. To them, that's an astronomical amount of money. So they would lure all these young women to Phnom Penh, promising them all this job. And for this young lady here, 14 years old at the time, the women got two of them together, her and her friend, and they crossed the border to Cambodia. Once they get in Phnom Penh, they found a coffee shop. And they said, well, we're going to stop here and we're going to get something to drink before we go to the job place. Well, they sat down and had a lemonade. And after about 30 minutes, well, her recruiter said she need to go to the restroom. After 30 minutes, they said, well, it looked like she wasn't going to come back. So they went to go look for her. And the moment she stood up with her friend, two bouncers came by and told her, you can't leave. She said, I can't leave. Why? She said, your friend just sold you to us for $1,500 a piece. And you have to work to pay that off before you can go home. That was her coffee shop that I saw her in. But it wasn't just her and her friend. Tens of thousands of young women were lured, trafficked into Cambodia to work in the biggest red light district in the world. To work in government offices that they never worked in. All they did was work in cafes, brothels, beauty salon, massage parlor that the UN created. Once they get there, their passport were taken, paperwork were taken, and they can never go home because they can't get across the border. Most of these young women work for years to pay off their debt. Unprotected sex led to disease, unwanted pregnancy, and when they get pregnant, they were beaten so their baby would abort. And what they can beat them to abort, dark alleys, clothes hanger, and rusty utensil is how they did their abortion. Some never make it because they never make enough money to pay off their debt that they didn't pay, that they didn't owe. Some are still there because the children born, shame, they never go back. UN officials love virgins. That's their prize. They love virgins. Anywhere from $300 to $1,500 they would buy these young girls. Most of them in the countryside, 14 to 17 years of age. They don't know no better. Heck, at 25, I didn't know any better. Money was very tempting. I don't know what the UN officials and soldiers and all that did during the daytime. But at nighttime, they come out with their fancy clothes and UN insignia. They come out like cockroaches. And cockroaches is what they were. I'm a businessman. I see fraud, mismanagement, bribery, corruption. Because I see cars with UN emblem, trucks, equipment, brand new Toyota Land Cruiser with UN emblem, UN. They end up in Vietnam, all over the place, because they sell them in the black market. Instead of stopping political crisis and promoting democracy, they created one of the largest human trafficking crises of the 20th century. President Trump gave a scathing speech rebuking the UN yesterday. I would have evicted them and sent them to Antarctica and gave the billions we spend on the UN to the needy around the world. You can look all this up on Google. You don't need to hear it from me. But the sad part is, it didn't stop. Wherever the UN go, their operation in Rwanda, in Africa, to the Middle East, wherever they go, they take the same philosophy of entertainment and debauchery with them. And they do it to this very day. My children asked me one year, what was my most beautiful human experience? And I told them about the one year I bought the freedom for a dozen young girls I didn't know, and sent them home to their family. The cafe madam where the girls worked wouldn't allow them to leave because that's where she made her money. And she made a lot of money. Her bouncer threatened me when I asked to buy the girls back. They didn't know back then I was a supplier of the cars that Hussein and his generals drive. So I told my interpreter to tell the madam, tomorrow I want you to bring a group of soldiers to come here and enjoy themselves. And when you leave, I don't want a single thing here that can be picked up. She looked at me for a while, and she knew I was serious. So she took out her ledger of what all the girls owe her. I paid off their debt, and I sent them home. The 15-year-old girl, I deliver home myself, because she didn't have any paperwork to cross the border, but I had connection. I often wonder what happened to her. That was the best Christmas present I've ever gave myself. Seeing the look on their face and knowing that this year they were finally going home. I'm Holly Man, and this is my story.